Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life features stories to inspire and motivate you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. Visit CYACYL.com.
Good morning, this is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. What if I told you that there is a connection between spirituality and weight loss, and that deep within, you have the power to address the root of your weight loss issues? Today's guest, New York Times bestselling author Marianne Williamson, teaches us how to go to that deep place where we have forgotten our divine perfection. In her book, A Course in Weight Loss, Marianne explains how this forgetfulness has confused our mind and body, making us reach for that which cannot sustain us. A Course in Weight Loss was selected by Oprah to be one of her favorite things. Marianne is an internationally acclaimed author and speaker. 6 of her 10 published books have been New York Times bestsellers. 4 of these have been number 1. Marianne has been a guest on television programs such as Oprah, Larry King Live, Good Morning America, and Charlie Rose. Good morning, Marianne. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Marianne, A Course in Weight Loss, it's not a particular diet or exercise program. We don't drink shakes. We don't count calories or points. So what exactly is the premise, and how does this approach differ from other weight loss programs?
Well, first of all, I'm not saying that diet and exercise don't work or that they're not important. Of course, they do work and they are important. That's just not the area of my expertise. What I'm talking about in this book are the psychological and emotional and even spiritual factors that can make it so difficult for people to stay on a diet or to stay with an exercise regimen. You know, Joan, in my work with people reading this book and working with the lessons, I've met people who have lost literally hundreds of pounds. I know people who have weight issues who know far more about metabolism and nutrition and even exercise than I ever will. The point is, when you have a deep compulsion, and sometimes when that compulsion is so strong that it would be labeled by the person as an addiction, then all of that knowledge and all of that understanding about how the body works and so forth is trumped. It's like a switch in the brain, kind of like when a breaker switch in your house flips over. Mm-hmm. That's what it can be like in the brain when you're dealing with a serious compulsion. And it's like everything you know, quote unquote know, with your rational mind, or even in terms of your self-will, your self-discipline goes out the window. So that's what this book is about. This is about the fact that while a deep compulsion or addiction can override your own self-care and self-discipline, even self-will, a higher power, God as we understand him, overrides the compulsion.
So, Marianne, we all know what it is that we need to do. And I've actually come to believe that, and this is in my own life as well, that I think that I make the choices that I do because in some way I'm building up walls around me. And is this something that is common? Do we use food as a way to, or our weight, I should say, as a way to protect ourselves, to build up walls?
Well, that's certainly a basic issue in this book. The first chapter is dedicated to that, as a matter of fact. I know in my own life, when I was a compulsive overeater, when I was a younger woman, and I dealt with the issue for about 10 years, when I started doing A Course in Miracles, I was being trained, my mind, you know, as any student of the Course knows, was being trained to think of myself as having a kind of energetic wall of fear around me, and that my opportunity in any moment was to reach my hand across the wall in greeting and in beneficence to the person in front of me. And what happened for me was that without my even realizing it, all of a sudden it's as though one day I looked down and noticed how much weight had disappeared. And it was then that I realized that that wall of flesh around me had been this physical manifestation of that wall of fear. So I also think, by the way, that everybody has that energetic wall of fear around us. That's the human condition, living on this earth and privy to the dictates of the ego fear-based mind. It's just that for the person who is dealing with overweight issues, the fear is often taking that form. But everybody has this issue in life. It's not like people dealing with food compulsion have that issue and the rest of us don't. It just takes a different form in different people's lives.
Marianne, how important is it for us to love the not thin me? And you write about that in the book. But I mean, I know so often, and I do this, we tend to put our life on hold until we lose that 20 pounds.
That is such a big issue, such an important issue, isn't it? You know, on one hand we say you have to love yourself, and then the question becomes, how do I love myself if I hate how I look?
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things that I've noticed in popular culture in the last few years, it's a very good thing. I think it started with Queen Latifah. You see it with the singer Adele. I think it's really a great thing that we are seeing more and more people in the popular culture who are big and beautiful, and really showing that it's possible to be those things. I think that's very important because, like you just said, you can't say to yourself, I will love you once you're thin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if ever there was a formula for self-destructiveness and conflict. And then if I hate myself, my subconscious gets that I hate myself, so when I start to do something that would be a reflection of genuine self-care, such as a healthy diet or healthy amount of exercise, the subconscious would actually resist that because my core belief is that I don't deserve love. So in the book and in the lessons in the book, there's an absolute recontextualizing of the relationship we have with all aspects of ourselves. And for that matter, all that the compulsive self is. And once again, you don't have to be dealing with food issues. This is an issue we all have, no matter what our character defect or our wounding is. It's a place where some fractal of who we really are isn't integrated into the whole self. And that integration doesn't happen by saying, I hate this part of me. It comes by saying, I realize that this is the wounded part of me, just asking for love. By my embracing this part of myself, I will reintegrate it into my system, and otherwise it will not go away. I always say that, in the book it says that the person who is overweight, that person within you is not standing there demanding food. She's standing there demanding love.
And you've also written a lot about the journey with God, how we should turn all of this over to him and ask for his help. How important is that in the process?
Well, that's everything.
Mm-hmm.
In A Course in Miracles, it says you think you have many different problems, but you really only have one, and that is a separation from God. So to say separation from God means separation from that which in us, which is the higher truth of all things, including our essential being. It is the love within us. So any problem we have in life, whether it's, in the area of food, relationships, money, career, anything, has to do with a place in our psyche where we are not aligned with the deepest truth about ourselves. And in aligning and realigning with God, that is how we realign with who we truly are. Some people, don't refer to that power as God. I don't have anything on that. That's not, that's why, like in Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about God as you understand him.
Marianne, we're going to go through some of these steps in very briefly. And if our listeners would like more information and to work the program, please get a copy of A Course in Weight Loss by Marianne Williamson. It's a wonderful book. But Marianne, briefly, you've talked about how we need to release this accumulated suffering that we've acquired over the years. What is the first step in the process for us to do this?
A lot of times people want a spiritual journey to be a set of bullet points. People are looking for the spiritual journey to be a to-do list. And it is not that simple. It is a deep and often mysterious internal process. So I think the first step is that you simply ask God, that you say, I am willing, and please help me. And, we need, in order to achieve the closest walk with God, we need some kind of a teaching, some kind of a path. And when you ask for that, books literally fall at your feet. I mean, there are people listening right now who may or may not be dealing with food issues, whose hearts may or may not be saying, I need to get that book. That has something to tell me. Some people might not, because it's just not the path for them. I'm a student of A Course in Miracles, and I am taught through the Course that my capacity and my willingness to forgive everyone and everything is the way I get close to God and achieve inner peace. Not always an easy task, we all know that. But when we are willing to forgive, when we are willing to recognize it with every moment, we either have an open-hearted response to life or a closed-hearted response to life. When we realize that when it comes to our compulsions around food or anything else, we do need God's help. We need a power greater than us to do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. We ask God to cut the cord that binds us to this dark obsession. So what I've done with the book, A Course in Weight Loss, and that's why it says 21 Spiritual Lessons, is that I have broken it down into 21 lessons that take the metaphysical journey as I understand it and apply it specifically to dismantling that very, very painful obsession that ties us to patterns of unwise eating.
Now, Marianne, what happens once we realize that we have these patterns and we've started doing the work, but you end up on that roller coaster ride? By digging deep, will we be able to eliminate those, I'm good today, but tomorrow I'm back to how I felt, so I'm going to have that cookie rather than something healthy? Is there a way that we can ensure that we'll be able to heal and make this a lifestyle for the rest of our lives?
Well, look, life works in a kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of a pattern all the time. We don't have to worry that God is going to maybe not be God tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The force that may or may not be constant here is not God but us. So can I guarantee that I will tomorrow be serene and peaceful and perfect in all my thinking and all my doing? Of course not. But I know that if I make God and my path with God the center of my existence, if I pray in the morning, if I meditate, if I read my spiritual literature, if I try to be honest with myself about my own weaknesses, if I try to do my work of forgiveness, if I monitor myself and am vigilant about my own integrity and my own excellence, and I do my best, yes, then God will meet me. Can I guarantee that I will be absolutely perfect every moment? No, I'm not an enlightened master. But what I can know is that God will be perfect at every moment. And to the extent to which I reach for that power, then my own weaknesses will be compensated for.
And like so many other addiction programs, it's one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Marianne, we're going to let our listeners think about that while we take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman, and our guest today is New York Times best-selling author and speaker, Marianne Williamson. Marianne, before break, we were talking about the importance of releasing a lot of the baggage, a lot of the accumulated suffering from within in order to heal and to achieve the healthy weight and a better life that it is that we need for our journey. I wanted to ask you, when we don't let go of feelings such as sadness, you said that they tend to get stuck in our minds and in our bodies. How does that happen?
Well, what I talk about in the book is the fact that often people who are dealing with this issue have something wrong with what I call the emotional sewage system. You know, when we eat, you eat something physically, you chew it, and then you swallow it, and then your digestive system processes it, and then the digestive system makes sure that the body keeps what it needs in terms of nourishment, and it lets go the rest. Now, what happens when we eat too much, of course, is the body can't get rid of all of it, and so that which is excess remains stored in the flesh. Now, this is a parallel and a reflection of what can happen emotionally. When we go through something, and for whatever reason, usually based in childhood wounds, we don't know really how to chew on the experience, how to be with the experience, and how to digest the experience. It might be that something so traumatic happened in childhood that we're afraid to just let these painful experiences be. That's why a lot of times people who are stuck in unwise eating patterns, if it's overeating, a lot of times it's about people who eat too fast. You just can't even take in the experience. It's too painful. Or eating to just be numb so you don't have to feel your feelings. You know, in even the happiest life, there are sad days. And we've become a society that has such an aversion to unpleasantness, such a cheap and ultimately meaningless view of what it means to be happy, as in happy, happy, happy all the time, that we stop developing the coping skills that come about with knowing, you know what, today is simply a sad day. I'm not feeling great today. But that doesn't mean I have to act out. That doesn't mean I have to do something stupid. That doesn't mean I have to overeat, for instance. It just means that today I will be sad. Today I will take bubble baths. Today I will just be easy on myself. Today I will understand that this is something I am going through. And that's extremely important, because otherwise you're saying, I'm sad, therefore I have to eat to numb my feelings. Well, what's the alternative to that? Be sad. Be sad. You know, I was talking to a woman the other day, and she was talking about her friend. And her friend has a daughter, 20 years old, who just moved to Paris, okay, for a year to study. And The 20-year-old girl who goes to an excellent college and is going over there to study for a year. She knows French. She called her mother crying, absolutely out of her mind. She's been in Paris one day, and she doesn't feel she has friends there. She doesn't know anyone there, and she's so sad and so upset. So the mother is talking about how upset she is, that her daughter is upset, and maybe she should fly over there, etc. So another friend of hers said, you shouldn't just fly over there. Just get her a Valium. Just get somebody over there to give her a Valium so she can go through the stress of this moment. Well, I have to tell you, Joan, that's how crazy we have become. You're 20 years old.
Yeah.
You're in one of the most exciting cities of the world. You speak the language. You're in a safe apartment.
Yeah.
So this is a stressful moment.
And you need a Valium.
And that stress will turn into one of the most exciting chapters of your life.
Right.
This is not a reason to take a drug.
Exactly.
And numb yourself to the stress of this moment. This is called the loneliness of the first day in a foreign country.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an example of what we've turned into. And also it's an example, with all due respect, to parents who want to, when we try to protect our children from the normal experiences of life and the normal feelings of life. So what we want to do is to know that those normal feelings in life are part of life. They're part of what build our character. They're part of what build our strengths. And that means the painful experiences, too. We don't have to run to numbing experiences. And, of course, for the overeater, that's what the food is. It's a drug.
And people need to understand that, because an alcoholic, you would never say, just stop drinking. But for someone who's overweight, people say, well, just stop eating. But it's not that simple.
Oh, Joan, I think that's such an important issue. I think there's a real mean-spiritedness in the air sometimes. Like you said, we've become savvy enough in our culture that we know just because somebody's being an alcoholic or a drug addict, it's a disease. So like you said, we don't say to the person who is an alcoholic, it's real simple, just don't pick up a drink. And yet, I hear some real lack of compassion towards people who are dealing with obesity. They should just stop eating. But like you said, it's so true for the real food addict. And there's a lot of studies about this, and there are those who believe that for the real food addict, there is a process that goes on in the stomach chemically with some foods that is no different in the brain than is the drink of alcohol for the alcoholic, that literally something happens and it is almost impossible to control. So, or even impossible to control for all intents and purposes. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I see some lack of compassion for people dealing with food addiction that you don't see in people dealing with drugs and alcohol, and I hope that cultural change is coming.
And and another point I'd like to bring up, that I don't want our listeners to think that we're only talking about people that might be 100 pounds overweight. This problem exists for most of us that are 15, 20, 25 pounds overweight who use food as comfort. So you don't have to be morbidly obese to be following these spiritual principles. It can be someone that is just using food or not dealing with the deep issues, but, someone like me who is fortunate enough that I haven't gained that much weight, but yet I'm still dealing with the same issues that you're describing.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I think as we begin to get a little older, then a certain amount of excess weight is no longer just a cosmetic issue. It becomes a health issue. It's putting a lot of stress on the body, that 20, 25 pounds. The heart is having to carry more of a burden. The lungs are having to carry more of a burden. The body is having to carry more of a burden. And I say in the book, it's better to hear these things from me than to hear it from your doctor.
And we need to work on those deep issues that are the root of the cause.
Absolutely.
Now, Marianne, you've talked about seeing yourself through spiritual eyes and not physical eyes. How can we do that?
Well, once again, it's not a how-to. It's not a silver bullet. There is, in the Christian tradition, something called the vision of the Holy Spirit. In the metaphysical tradition, it's called the third eye. And it's the idea that our physical senses report to us one level of reality, but that there is a level of reality beyond what the physical senses perceive. If I'm holding my baby, my hands can touch the precious skin and my eyes can see the precious baby. But my hands can't touch and my eyes can't see the love itself that binds me to that child. And we all know that. You walk into a room and you feel the, quote-unquote, people say, I feel the negative energy. Well, the physical senses don't perceive it, but you can feel it. Or you walk into a room and you feel the love and kindness and compassion. Once again, your physical eyes don't perceive that kindness and compassion, but you can feel it. And The mystic is someone who lives life realizing that while the physical senses report to us one level of reality, there is a world beyond that. And that world is a world of love. And depending on which world you identify with, you are under a different set of rules. If I think that I'm my body, I identify myself just as a body, then I bind myself to a faith, as it were, in a world of limitation and scarcity. It's counterintuitive, but it's when I realize that I am not my body, that I am bigger than my body. My spirit is who I really am. Counterintuitively, that's when I have a healthy relationship with the body. It's counterintuitive, but it's very profound. It's when I think I am a body that I am prey to the sicknesses and the obsessions that mere body identification can bring. And in A Course in Miracles, it says that enlightenment is a switch, a transition from body identification to spirit identification. And you know, in the realm of the body, we all make mistakes and we're all imperfect. But in the realm of the spirit, we are innocent and eternal and perfect. Now, even more importantly, if I relate to you as a body and myself only as a body, then there is distance between you and me. If I realize that I'm a spirit and you're a spirit, then there's really no place where you stop and I start. And so we begin with the supposition that we are one. What I do to you, I'm doing to myself. What I give to you, I'm giving to myself. It's two parallel universes, and one is filled with fear and one is filled with love. You know, this isn't just theory. I mean, it's when we allow ourselves to practically apply such principles as these and try it out for ourselves. Wow. One gives me anxiety and one gives me inner peace. Hello.
The book is A Course in Weight Loss by Marianne Williamson. If you'd like more information about our work, you can visit marianne.com or acourseinweightloss.com. And as always, you can visit our website, which is CYACYL.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on our site, listen to past shows as podcasts, read the digital magazine, sign up for our mailing list, and now take part in the CYACYL book club. Marianne, thank you so much for taking time to be with us here today and to share your wisdom on this very important topic.
Thank you, Joan. I really appreciate it.
This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.